The tension between you two is getting harder for this person to hide. And honestly, they know it. Every time they look at you too long, something in them slips emotionally for a second. Hi, sweetheart, welcome back. Because the first thing coming through here is someone trying very hard not to fall too deep too fast. The eye contact between you two has been saying more than either of you are comfortable admitting out loud right now. This person keeps trying to treat the connection casually, but every time your eyes meet for even a second too long, something inside them completely loses focus. It is not just attraction either. That is the part that matters. They feel emotionally exposed around you in a way they are not used to. Like somehow you can already see through the version of themselves they normally show everyone else. And I think that realization caught them off guard badly. Because this person usually controls interactions very carefully. They know how to flirt without attaching. They know how to stay emotionally safe. But around you, the energy keeps slipping past their defenses. I keep catching myself staring just a little too long and then looking away like nothing happened. That thought keeps surfacing quietly whenever they leave your presence. And honestly, they are starting to realize this connection may become impossible to manage lightly anymore. This person is trying very hard to appear emotionally normal around you, but their internal world is becoming louder every single time you interact. The strange part is, most people around them probably would not notice it immediately. They still laugh, they still carry conversations, they still pretend everything is under control. But underneath that surface, absolute emotional chaos lately. You are distracting them in moments that should not even involve you. They replay conversations afterward, trying to figure out why your energy lingers in their chest the way it does. And the more they try to minimize it logically, the stronger the emotional attachment becomes. That is why they sometimes pull back suddenly after intense moments, not because feelings disappeared, because they are struggling to regulate them. I smiled through the whole conversation, but the second I got home, I just sat there feeling everything I was hiding. They keep recognizing that truth in private, and it honestly scares them a little more every time they admit it to themselves emotionally. Neither of you imagine the tension building here. That is important because one of you keeps questioning whether this emotional charge was one-sided, and it absolutely was not. This person felt it immediately too. The lingering pauses, the way conversations suddenly carried extra emotional weight. The moments where physical distance felt louder than actual words. They noticed all of it. And honestly, I think they became aware of the chemistry before you realized how serious it was becoming emotionally. But instead of leaning into it fully, they tried managing it quietly, containing it, pretending the attraction would eventually settle into something lighter. It did not. Every interaction kept deepening the emotional intensity instead. And now there is this almost unbearable awareness sitting between you both whenever you are together. They feel it strongest in silence. That is what keeps replaying afterward. There was one moment where neither of us spoke, and somehow that silence said more than anything else could have. And they are no longer sure how much longer they can keep pretending otherwise emotionally. Something about your energy keeps making this person emotionally lose balance in ways they are not proud of admitting yet. They are usually the composed one, the emotionally controlled one. The person who can keep attraction fun without letting it completely consume their thoughts afterward. But around you, their body reacts before their mind can organize itself properly. That is why their behavior sometimes changes suddenly when moments get too close or emotionally intimate. They become quieter, more distracted, more aware of every tiny thing you are doing. And the craziest part is, they notice themselves doing it in real time. I literally forgot what I was about to say mid-sentence because they looked at me for just a second too long. That question keeps echoing privately after interactions with you. Because this person genuinely thought they had mastered emotional detachment years ago. They built an entire identity around staying unaffected. And now your presence alone is quietly dismantling that emotional control piece by piece without even trying to emotionally. You reached a softer emotional side of this person that very few people ever get close enough to see. And honestly, I do not think they expected that to happen this fast. At first, they thought the connection was mostly physical attraction mixed with curiosity. But the more time passes, the more emotionally protective they feel toward you naturally. That is the shift happening underneath everything else. Suddenly, your moods matter to them. Your absence affects them. Small changes in your energy linger in their mind long after conversations end. And they hate how vulnerable that makes them feel internally because they are used to being emotionally self-contained. But you make them want closeness in ways they cannot casually explain anymore. I genuinely did not expect to care this much this soon, and now I cannot figure out how to stop. That realization has been hitting them harder lately. And instead of making the feelings disappear, it is actually making them emotionally attached deeper. This connection stopped being light for them a while ago, even if they have not fully admitted that aloud yet emotionally. This person has experienced attraction before, chemistry before, intense conversations before. But something about you emotionally affected them differently from the very beginning, and that is what keeps unsettling them now. You did not force your way into their heart. You did not chase them emotionally. If anything, your calmness made them more curious. There is something emotionally grounded about you that makes this person feel both safe and exposed at the same time, and that combination is incredibly rare for them. Usually, they can predict how connections will unfold. Usually, they know exactly how emotionally invested they plan to become. But with you, the feelings kept growing beyond the limits they originally intended. That loss of control is becoming impossible for them to ignore now. Something about this one feels different, and I cannot shake it no matter how hard I try. That thought keeps returning unexpectedly during quiet moments. And honestly, I think they are realizing this connection has the potential to change their emotional life in ways they were never fully prepared for emotionally. This person keeps trying to emotionally downplay what they feel for you, but the harder they fight it internally, the stronger the attachment becomes afterward. They thought distance would help, logic would help. Distraction would help. None of it worked the way they expected, because the issue is not just attraction anymore. Your energy emotionally settled somewhere deep inside them without permission. That is why they suddenly become quieter after intense moments between you. They are trying to regain emotional control before you notice how affected they really are. I told myself I was not going to think about them today, and then thought about them literally all day long. That thought keeps repeating privately whenever the connection starts feeling too emotionally real. But honestly, part of them already knows it is too late for that. They think about you constantly now. Every attempt to emotionally detach somehow pulls them deeper into wanting you instead lately. This person keeps replaying interactions with you long after they happen, and honestly, it is becoming impossible for them to stop doing it naturally now. Tiny moments emotionally stay with them in ways they cannot explain logically. A look from you, a pause in conversation, the way your energy shifted when they got close to you physically. These memories keep resurfacing during ordinary moments of their day without warning. And the emotional intensity attached to those memories keeps growing instead of fading over time. I replayed one small moment between us probably 100 times before I even realized I was doing it. That question keeps hitting them privately because they are not used to someone lingering in their emotional space this deeply. Usually attraction passes eventually. Usually they regain emotional balance quickly. But with you, every interaction leaves a stronger emotional imprint afterward, and they know this connection already became emotionally significant. At some point, this person realized they stopped viewing this connection as emotionally casual altogether, and that realization honestly unsettled them deeply inside. In the beginning, they believed they could keep things light and emotionally manageable between you. Chemistry without attachment, attraction without vulnerability. But slowly, something shifted underneath everything. Suddenly, your moods affected them, your distance affected them. Even the possibility of losing access to your energy emotionally started bothering them more than expected. I remember the exact moment I stopped pretending to myself that this was nothing to me. That thought has been surfacing quietly whenever they reflect on you alone, because this person understands now that their feelings are no longer temporary or surface level emotionally. And honestly, that awareness is changing the way they behave around you completely. Internally, they already know this connection reached a depth they cannot casually walk away from anymore. This person genuinely believed they had mastered emotional distance long before you entered their life. They built careful habits around staying emotionally safe, keeping connections exciting without letting them become deeply personal. But something about your energy quietly disrupted that entire system faster than they expected. And honestly, I think that realization shocked them internally. I have spent years keeping people at a certain distance, and this person walked right through all of it without even trying. That thought keeps returning after interactions with you because their emotional defenses are no longer working the way they used to. Suddenly, they care about your attention, your mood, your presence. Even small changes in your energy stay with them afterward, and that emotional vulnerability makes them uncomfortable because they are not used to someone reaching them this deeply, this quickly. But despite trying to regain emotional control, part of them already knows their walls started falling the moment your connection became emotionally real. This person already senses that the first kiss between you two is going to emotionally change everything afterward. And honestly, that awareness both excites and unsettles them deeply inside. Because right now they can still pretend they are somewhat emotionally balanced. They can still rationalize the attraction and convince themselves they are managing it well enough. But physical closeness with you feels different emotionally. What if one moment with them completely undoes every wall I ever built around my heart? That thought keeps surfacing whenever the chemistry becomes too intense between you lately. And honestly, their instincts are right about this. Because underneath all the restraint and emotional caution, this connection already became much deeper than they openly admit. The kiss simply becomes the moment where denial completely stops working internally. Afterward, pretending this is temporary emotionally becomes impossible for them anymore. And deep down, I think part of them already knows they are going to want much more from you once that line finally gets crossed emotionally. There was a specific moment where this person emotionally felt something permanently shift between you two, and honestly, I think they still replay that moment privately sometimes now. Something about the connection suddenly became heavier emotionally afterward, more intimate beneath the surface, more emotionally difficult to ignore. Something changed between us in that one moment, and we both felt it, even though neither of us said a word. That realization settled inside them quietly after one interaction affected them more deeply than expected emotionally. And since then, they have struggled to return to the emotionally detached version of themselves they were before meeting you. Even normal conversations feel charged differently now. Your energy lingers with them longer. Your presence affects them more strongly. And honestly, I think they are beginning to realize this connection is changing the way they emotionally experience relationships altogether lately. Because after feeling something this emotionally real with you, shallow attachment no longer feels emotionally satisfying to them anymore internally. The first kiss between you two feels emotionally unforgettable before it even fully happens. There is already so much tension sitting underneath this connection that the moment itself changes something internally for both of you afterward, but especially for this person. Because once that emotional and physical distance finally disappears, they cannot pretend the feelings are small anymore. The second our lips met, I felt everything I had been trying so hard to keep contained just completely let go. That realization hits them instantly. And honestly, I think the emotional intensity surprises them more than the kiss itself does. Suddenly, your energy feels impossible to separate from their emotions afterward. They replay the moment constantly. The closeness, the eye contact, the feeling in their chest afterward. And the strangest part is, instead of calming the connection down emotionally, it actually deepens everything for them naturally. This person is becoming emotionally attached faster than they originally planned. And honestly, I think that realization is making them nervous privately now, because they usually know how to keep emotional balance in connections. But with you, they keep caring more instead of less as time passes. They notice your absence immediately now. They think about reaching out more often. They wonder how you feel about them emotionally when you become quiet. I checked my phone way more times than I want to admit, just hoping to see their name show up. That thought keeps surfacing lately because your energy already became important to them in ways they cannot casually explain anymore. And despite trying to emotionally slow themselves down sometimes, their feelings continue growing naturally underneath everything. This connection no longer feels emotionally temporary to them at all now. The moment emotional closeness deepened between you two, this person immediately started wanting more of your energy afterward. More conversations, more attention, more emotional connection. And honestly, I do not think they expected their feelings to intensify this quickly internally. Because usually attraction settles after emotional tension gets released. But with you, the opposite keeps happening. I walked away from that conversation already wishing I could turn right back around and have it all over again. That question has been hitting them privately after interactions lately because your presence emotionally lingers with them long afterward now. And the deeper the connection becomes, the more emotionally difficult it feels for them to stay detached or casual around you anymore. Part of them still tries acting composed externally, but internally, they already know they are emotionally craving your presence much more than they originally intended to. This person keeps realizing you stay on their mind during the most ordinary parts of their day now. That is what emotionally caught them off guard the most. Not just the attraction, the consistency of their thoughts about you afterward. A random memory of your voice suddenly appears while they are busy doing something else completely. And once you enter their thoughts, it becomes difficult for them to emotionally focus on anything else for a while. I was in the middle of something completely unrelated and suddenly just heard their laugh in my head out of nowhere. That question keeps surfacing privately because they are not used to someone emotionally affecting them this deeply for this long. And honestly, the more they try to emotionally ignore it, the stronger your presence becomes internally afterward. Something about this connection emotionally shifted from simple attraction into something much harder for this person to walk away from internally. Your energy feels comforting, exciting, emotionally calming, and intense all at once to them lately. And honestly, they keep craving your presence more each time you interact, not in an unhealthy way. More like emotional attachment growing naturally faster than expected. Every time we talk, I leave feeling more connected and somehow more hungry for the next conversation too. That realization has been hitting them quietly because your connection no longer feels emotionally casual anymore. Even short moments between you seem emotionally important afterward now. And the emotional pull they feel toward you keeps becoming stronger instead of fading naturally over time. This person is not just emotionally attracted to the easy or lighthearted parts of you anymore. They are becoming emotionally curious about all of you now. Your quieter moods, your guarded moments, even the parts you do not openly show everyone else. And honestly, that emotional depth is part of what keeps pulling them closer lately. I actually find myself more drawn to their quiet days than their easy ones because that is where I see who they really are. That thought keeps surfacing privately because your energy feels emotionally genuine to them in a way they rarely experience. And the deeper this connection becomes, the more emotionally serious their feelings quietly become underneath everything else now. They do not just want moments with you anymore. They want emotional closeness that actually lasts. After that kiss, this person emotionally stopped seeing you the same way they tried to before. Something shifted permanently inside them afterward. The emotional distance they once tried maintaining suddenly felt impossible to recreate naturally anymore. I drove home after that night completely quiet because I knew nothing between us was ever going back to what it was before. That realization hit them almost immediately because the connection suddenly felt emotionally real in a completely different way. And honestly, I think they started imagining a future with you more seriously after that moment too. Your energy stayed with them deeply afterward. The closeness, the emotional intensity, the feeling of finally letting themselves experience something genuine again. And since then, their emotions toward you have only continued growing stronger internally instead of fading with time naturally. This person became emotionally attached to you much faster than they ever intended, and honestly, I think they are still trying to fully understand how it happened internally. Because normally they take much longer to emotionally trust connections deeply, but with you, something felt familiar and emotionally comforting almost immediately. I am not someone who falls fast, but something about this person made me realize I was already gone before I even noticed it happening. That thought keeps surfacing privately because your presence became emotionally important to them faster than expected. And the deeper this connection becomes, the harder it feels for them to emotionally imagine walking away from it anymore. They are no longer just enjoying your attention casually now. They are emotionally invested in your presence, your energy, and the way you naturally make them feel emotionally understood without even trying too hard. All right, sweetheart. That is where I'm going to leave this energy tonight because, wow, this person is not handling these feelings lightly anymore. If this reading found you at the right time, let me know below what part hit hardest for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay close, because this story between you two feels far from over.